My name is Justice Rowe. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I'm located um, on the territory of the Massachusetts, the Nip, the Niptuck, the Nip. I always pronounce it wrong. I need to get that right. But the Niptuck
Honestly, yeah.
Nations, um, Wampanoag is the Wampanoag Nations are near me. I used to live out there in the Cape, so I know about them. So those are the lands that I'm going to acknowledge here in Boston, Massachusetts.
I had to do a presentation for Black History Month celebration and had to open with the land acknowledgement. And as much as I practiced and practiced and practiced, I still fumbled over the still Hadusane. I still even can't pronounce it now. And it's fascinating how I struggle with those terms, and like there's no excuse for not understanding them. Like it should be on the tip of our tongues in terms of recognizing, acknowledging, thinking about them, and the challenge of pronouncing it for me personally is that's a personal challenge too. Like, well, are you committed to even learning that? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So it's not a
it,
guilt trip for you, but it's just a reflection I have for myself. You know?
I don't take anything as guilt. I take
Yeah.
it as acknowledging that we have lived in a space and time that has erased language, that has erased a commonality of us building and bonding with each other in authentic ways. It's been erased. And through genocide of the indigenous, they have taken that language away from us. And so
Yes.
it makes us hard when it's invisible to us, right?
Hmm.
I remember the last thing that I saw about indigenous people is that they are magical, mystical people. That was like in the 70s and the 80s. And before that, the Wild Wild West. You know what I
Right.
mean? They were like our enemies. So if you
Hmm.
internalize that the indigenous people are our enemies, no matter how good you are, that little DNA brick is in your spirit and in your soul. You're holding on,
Yes.
right? Because white supremacy says so. We learned this throughout school, we learned this through education, and we learn this every day through media that reinforces these values. So I don't feel guilt. I just
Yes.
I work on it, and I ensure that I'm authentic in everything that I do, and I don't lie because then it's performative.
Yes.
So I don't feel guilty. I
Yeah.
acknowledge and I honor and I learn.
Yes. Love it. Love it. And it's funny too, from a Canadian perspective, the images that we were taught in school weren't as the Cowboys and Indians and enemies. They're taught as First Nations, but then taught as people that we collaborated with, people that we bargained with, and they gave us this land. You know what I mean? Like, so they weren't enemies, but we were sold this bill of goods that in school that there are people that were our friends that we bought stuff from, and that they're our friends that gave us this land, and but they don't talk about how treaties were betrayed and how all these different things happen. So it's not an enemy rhetoric that we have here in Canada. It's more of a friend rhetoric, except not we, but the white people were the ones, the Europeans were the ones that betrayed them and then said, oh, no, no, they're the ones that gave it to us. It's like, no, actually, you stole it from them, right? So it's just interesting amongst these things, just as we talk, how there is a Canadian lens and there is an American lens that comes to how it presents stuff. So on top of the layers of our personal experience is also the geographical experience as well.
Yes, that's definitely a part of the context.
Hmm. The so we're talking about, can you just say a little more about value? You mentioned something about value a minute ago, and the values that you now internalize as opposed to the values that are almost imposed upon us. You touched on that earlier. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Uh, the values that I hold now,
Yes.
things that I've exposed myself through learning from and humanizing and valuing my own experience. It's been framed on the love that my mom has continuously given me, no matter how I've identified myself to her or expressed my own experience and exposed her, it's always been full of love. In some ways, misunderstanding, which created conflict. But conflict is where we grow with each other.
Thank you.
There is
Yes.
no fear of that. Like, I'm not afraid of my mom, like, who have internalized the same. This is what I think is funny about people, is that when we learn more about ourselves, because we have to, it's part of who we are, we have to survive, and we have to make voice to the connections that even though it's still in relation to whiteness, we
Hmm.
still have to find a common language so that we know that there's others out there that have a similar experience, and we're
Yes.
not going crazy, right? We're
Hmm.
not all alone in this, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so I think that we all think that when it's almost like we get the Holy Ghost, everybody else get the Holy Ghost.
Hmm.
If you know what I'm talking about, but that's
Hmm.
not,
Yeah.
it's not the truth, right?
Right.
There's a lot of performance that happens, right? Because we all learn to be performative. So there's
Right.
less that's going on, right? And in that, I feel like, you know, I've learned to be authentic from my
Hmm.
mom, right? Because
Yes.
with my mom's love, she gave me this clear understanding to question things, but to be open and be open to my own change about experience and exposure to diversity in the world and what
Yes.
it's mean to us as black people, as black and indigenous people to this land, because
Yes.
are indigenous to this land, right? What it means
Hmm.
to us, to this
Yes.
land, right? Our experience to this land. And it's very important. That's why it's very important that you and I know we learn the acknowledgement, but it's beyond the acknowledgement, right?
Hmm.
It's really how we are educating ourselves in each other to say
Yes.
that it's more than acknowledging something,
Okay.
right? It's really being in alignment with true change that honors that true acknowledgement, right?
Okay, so that acknowledgement is like acknowledge is step one, right? So we can tick the box for acknowledgement and we're like, okay, that's weak, there's more. So what's the more? Like what's the next step after acknowledgement?
Acknowledgement after that is education, understanding how our relationships are actually dictated by sources to maintain and sustain power.
Yes.
None of us can meet those standards.
Hmm.
None of us. There is no idea of perfection. There is a driver, a desire, right? A desire, not a need, not a reality. It's elusive. It's something that has been placed in front of us, kind of
Yes.
like a carrot
Yes.
got someone on, but you is not going to get the carrot because
Yes.
somebody's holding it away from you,
Right.
right? To lead you towards the carrot, but you ain't going to never get it.
Right.
That is desire. And that is how we're all locked in. We're not locked into authentic relationships. We believe in the lies that is mystified through education, through media. We are taught all of these things. And in this teaching, we separate ourselves from these ideas that we've truly invested in because we've in some ways conformed so much, found value in it, and found value in ourselves in it,
In it.
and don't
Yep.
recognize the privilege of that
Hmm.
and how that privilege in conforming is going against, even if we are social justice people. In
Yes.
some ways, I feel like our social justice have become performative, and it's about a leader instead of a community. It's
Yes.
about what that person has done to save, and being a savior is white supremacy. I didn't
Hmm.
ask anyone to come in and save me. I
Yep.
asked you to be in community with me and advocate
Yes.
what we all deserve, righteous,
Yes.
not no special need. I
Hmm.
don't need anything special.
Yep.
I'm just being clear.
Hmm.
I just want us to understand that activism is a tricky thing because the way we learn, right, value,
Yes.
the way
Yes.
learn these values and what we internalize is very well connected to the very thing that is destroying us.
So
That it's
activism is a tricky thing, is what you're saying. Activism itself, we need to pause and figure out what activism really looks like.
individualized activism.
Okay, okay,
And someone is not thinking that we as a collective, because you need one thing, you need the confidence to believe that you could change things. You need
right,
the confidence, right? But
yes,
true change doesn't happen by yourself.
right. Do you have to understand what your capacity to change is? You know what I'm saying? Because I can be confused and want to do some action and activism, but then not understand like what change I'm capable of doing as a result of it, right? So it's
So
one
then
thing
you're
to
performative, right? If you don't
it
understand,
becomes, yeah, because it's
then,
not authentic. Yes,
no, I'm just saying,
gotcha.
you don't
Yes,
understand. And part of it was let's go back to education,
hmm,
right? So you got to do stuff for yourself
yes,
first in
right,
order to understand, right? I don't
yes,
want nobody just running out. What you gonna run out in the army for? Don't know what the hell you fighting for. You don't even know what
yes.
you're fighting for. You just gonna run out to the front lines.
But so just actually, can I just jump in there because like that makes that good. I love that you're putting that out there for clarification because oh, you're cutting out there. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the sense of performative doesn't necessarily have to be an intentional malicious act. It could be an act of ignorance as well. Then
Being performative is in everybody's DNA. When
yes,
I
but
go into my Instagram, right,
yes,
and you see on my Instagram feed me picking up this heavy ass weight that I just did this morning,
yes,
and I videoed it, right,
hmm,
and then I put it on my Instagram feed because as a
yes,
part of fitness, to say, and this is performative, right? It's all
hmm,
regular to us. We don't even think or read in between the lines. We just do it. We don't
yes,
understand how toxic it is and how
hmm,
it reinforces toxic values. And I'm
hmm,
speaking to it because I just did it this morning
okay,
and for a reason to
okay,
speak about how performative the fitness industry is, right?
yes,
So pushing people, and we talked about all bodies. I love how you talked about the book All Bodies and a person, because I've been
yes,
doing this. I'm 47 years old. I've been doing this since I was born out of my mom's womb. And that white
hmm,
doctor smacked me. And I said,
hmm,
motherfucker, smack me again. This is how this world gonna be. I got you. I
hmm,
got you. I'm out to change things. I'm out to build community with folks who is ready, right, to authentically learn
yes,
and
yes,
build a community together. And it's
yes,
not about just my body, because
hmm,
then my body becomes alienated. It becomes our body, right? And then it's
yes,
performance that everybody's out there showing, oh, I did this heavy. That's actually okay. We is reinforcing some toxic stuff. And you're not
hmm,
talking about how we're reinforcing this toxic performative ideology of what bodies are supposed to be doing. When I look at my Instagram feed and I see crazy people, no, I'm take that back because language. When I see crazy things happen
hmm,
with bodies that look like not cool to me, that my body can't handle, it feels dismissive and diminishing. And I can only imagine what that feels like with other community members in their bodies when they are watching these things, these
right,
performative things that are suggestively like a standard place out
right,
there, even if
yes,
we are not doing it consciously,
okay,
right? It is still
yes,
a standard out there. You could get there. You could do this triple somersault flip in the air. You can do that, but you're not thinking about, well, what if a person don't have the ability because they don't have all the appendages that you have? They don't have that privilege. Their body
right,
looks different from your body, right?
yes,
And we are not talking about how to celebrate what that looks like in that body, right? That body is
hmm,
actually erased. And
right,
so what I mean by performative, this is a deep rooted issue
Of course.
especially the fitness industry, because performance is what have told us how to be in our bodies and what fitness looks like. And these are the ideas that it streams from. And
Yes.
performance had brought it around the world, from Europe to here to wherever the hell it is. That performance brought it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
created the standard. And now modern day Instagram users are like, squats look like this. And even people are like, positive bodies look like this in a squat. No, actually, a squat is a squat is a squat, right? And
Yes.
I'm going to be honest, maybe the squat doesn't look to your standard or the standard of whiteness that you've learned, because you don't want to read between the lines, right? And now we're
Mm-hmm.
all performing to fix bodies and not understand the diversity of bodies. And that is the work that I'm helping people to do. Get through the
Yes.
foolishness of thinking that they're doing something positive when they're saying, I'm performative and I'm going to make my clients perform because I'm a good fixer upper of the
Mm-hmm.
bodies. So I'm
Yes.
going to have my clients perform for you. I'm going to perform for you and show you I can pick up heavy things. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
or, I'm going to be doing these odd things that I'm celebrating, but what am I
Yes.
projecting out into the world
Yes.
about standards? Did I give like a common statement? Well,
Right.
I'm celebrating my body,
Mm-hmm.
and all bodies are differently. Let's begin, as if we're going to acknowledge, let's acknowledge bodies as well. All
Yes.
bodies are different. I'm
Right.
celebrating my body, and I don't want this to look performative. Some days my body looks like shit. And
Yes.
we should begin to show those days, right? If your
Right.
body looks like shit, let's perform that shit and show people.
Yes.
No, we wait
So you're
until.
saying then, so just to clarify then, because your post, when you're posting something, ensure that your language is inclusive, ensure that your the words that you use are not excluding others, and that you're in we speak, and that your posts, it's not necessarily the danger of the image, it's the danger of the words that would suggest that someone else is
uh,
excluded by my image.
yes, if I could do it, we're pushing this. If I could do it, you could do it too. And then we get this
Gotcha.
competitiveness. Well, if I could do it and you could do it too, then I could do it better than you.
Yeah.
And then we got, oh, this is what perfections look like. So then I have created this standard of perfection. Boop, 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 boop,
So
boop, that everybody has to meet.
so
And
question with that then. Sorry, it's just because I hear what you're saying and that makes total sense. But then for me, I like competition. I see that and I'm like, I'm okay with that.
there's nothing wrong with you liking it. And you
Okay.
can, I like competition, right?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
it is that bad inside yourself? No. But does everybody like competition? Is this a measure that everybody has to meet in the
Of
world?
of course
Is
not.
that what you're saying? Is
No, no,
you're
I'm
saying
just saying
I like
I'm saying
it?
what I'm saying is that is like what the other message that gets out there is that we criminalize
I'm not criminalizing
competition. We're
it.
criminalizing other things, right? So I want to make sure that our language is
No, I'm gonna
inclusive
be
for
very
everyone
clear.
from your side, right?
I'm gonna be very clear. I'm gonna be very clear.
And I'm just using
Did out my mouth, because you're assuming something,
no,
because
no,
there's a
no,
little bit of guilt right now.
no,
And
no. Of course not.
language is funny, right? I did not say that, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
you should not compete. I did not say that. What I said was acknowledge that all bodies are different, and make that acknowledgement when you make your post, so
Yes,
that a clear understanding that this is not an investment in conforming with toxic ideology that we have all internalized about
sure.
measures that bodies should meet. Now,
Yes,
after you've done that and made that acknowledgement, just like we're making acknowledgments to the land, we
yes,
need to be making acknowledgments about each other as a larger community and our
yes.
investment in those acknowledgments. These are
Mm-hmm.
things that we can actively do right now. And
Yes,
part of that actually goes right back into the work of acknowledging the land and acknowledging the people that first were on this land, right?
nice.
So it makes it
Yes,
all real. right? And then
Absolutely.
your acknowledgement becomes what? An action. You then
Hmm.
educated yourself, and now I am actively doing some work. I'm not just acknowledging the land, but I'm acknowledging bodies, right?
Yes.
Which are a part of this land, right? We
Yes.
are a part
Yes.
of it. We aren't the makers of it, right? We are part of it. And so
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. And when I say
Yes.
things,
Period.
it's always funny because I kind of get tired of people because they feel some type of way
Hmm.
saying, well, what you're saying is what I do because everybody does this. So what and I didn't say that.
Hmm.
And I'm
Hmm.
there, I'll bring you right back because I know this is being recorded. So
Hmm.
I bring you right back to the recording and
Yes.
say, did I say that at any point in time? No, I did not. So why don't you
Hmm.
hold on to that for a moment?
Sure.
That's not what
Sure.
I'm saying. Your
Absolutely.
discomfort with me saying that you need to acknowledge that the things that we've internalized are toxic to all bodies,
Yes.
right? And that you don't want to people to invest in that ideology. Now, if you
Yes.
love competition, that's your thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Absolutely. And now
Well,
and
they
by
love
no means.
competition.
No, sorry. No, and thanks for clarifying. And that was a clarifying question. That's not coming from any
Oh,
guilt I personally have with it. So it's like you don't have to put words in my mouth either. We're
yeah.
good. I just wanted to just clarify what you're saying. There's a comment here. There's actually a comment from earlier that I missed because you were saying some great things here. How do
Uh,
we create? So applies Hadi's IG. How do we create some positive collective forward movement?
oh, they starting to cut out here. That's beautiful. Hold on 1 second. I guess I got to move
Sure.
this away from the cutting. It's so nice out. I feel oppressed right now.
I can
It's,
still hear you. It's fine. You can stay there,
oh, you
unless
can.
you can't hear me.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I can barely
This
hear you.
is oh, okay.
As long as you can hear me, I guess that's
Man,
good.
this is live IGs, man. Like babies crying in the background, trees getting cut down. It happens, so it's all
Yeah,
good.
as long as they don't fall on my head, I guess. Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed the question because I was trying
Yeah,
to get
no problem. Pilates Hottie IG asked, "How do we create positive collective forward movement?" I think you kind of answered that in the acknowledgement, education, and action piece. Is there anything
there.
else you'd add to that?
Yes, I think that we are taught that the American dream is an individual seeking, right? We are taught that. And that is a nightmare because that's where that's the original bamboozlement, that we're
Mm,
all having that same dream. And no, not everybody is having that dream. That dream is horrible. And we have to acknowledge that we are here as a community,
yes.
right? And in that, we learn about the people who are right next door, right?
Hmm.
So people be like, da, 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 I'm an activist and don't even know their next door neighbor. So what is your activism about if you're not
Well said.
engaged with your community? So that's what I mean by being performative, right?
Hmm.
That we're not truly invested. It is rooted on the land in which you live, right?
Yes.
Let's acknowledge that. All right. So I live on my street. I help and support a lot of the people on my street because as
Yes.
a fitness person, right? Like there's some elders that live on my street and they legit
Hmm.
like, yo, can you help me with my air conditioners? Hell yeah, I can help you with your air conditioners. Can you help me walk my
Yes.
dog? You saw me walking those two dogs real good. Hell yeah, I can help you walk your dog. Like
Yes.
it is an invested in the us, not the I.
Yes.
And that is our
Right.
problem. We are always in the I. And so if we can erase that for a second
Hmm.
and think about the we, because I is a part of the we, but sometimes we're so much in the I, we can't get
Yes.
beyond the I to the here we are, here we,
Right.
right? And it's like
Yes.
we always are dictative about things when I'm just telling people to ask, right?
Yes.
Ask your neighbors how they doing. Ask.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Ask people things. Do they want you to do all of this? Do they want you to buy that Black Lives Matter thing and place it in your window? And I ain't never seen you, but I seen that flag in your window. I don't even know. Do Black Lives really matter? Lord only knows what's going on in that house. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
And the
Right.
reality is that that's what this world teaches us. Performance is in our very DNA. It takes
Yes.
away our authentic, creative relationships that we need to have deeper than performing
Yes.
deeper. I would rather get in an argument with someone than stand next to someone at a rally. Because in that argument, I know that we are communicating with each other
Communicating. Yes.
and understanding
Yes.
at that point. And so what we arguing? Arguing means that that person strongly holds their values and I strongly
Yes.
hold my values. And at some
Yes.
point, somebody's going to give because we're both willing to be in that discussion. And if you're both willing to be in that, you're both there, right? So the fuck,
Yes.
what is the argument? Just keep going at it. Somebody's going to eventually have to take a breath and then hear, right? It's just like, yo,
And that's the thing I always say too. Like conflict should make a relationship richer.
yes,
There's a difference between fighting to be heard and fighting for something that you believe in and fighting for your relationship to advance.
yes. I think for what I'm fighting for is the foundation and framework that we all find authentic love and that
Okay.
we're able to eradicate the toxins. That's what wellness is to me. It's not what
Okay.
someone has dictated. That's what fitness is to me. It's not what
Yes.
someone has told me to do. And even
Yes.
as a coach or a trainer, I say you take the lead, right?
Right.
And people go,
Yes.
well, and I'm like, I know
Mm-mm.
some things, but you know your body. And that's
Yes.
the journey, right? The
Right.
journey is your body. And therefore, I'm honored to be on this journey with you
Thank
because you could have
you.
made any multiple decisions as the lead of this journey. And so you
Yes.
invited me in.
You
And
invited me
therefore,
in.
I am grateful. And
Yes.
that is always my relationship with my clients. They not coming, they may
Absolutely.
think they coming, they're like, oh, you know about those. Da, da, da. I'm like, I know some things. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what your body is going to, how it's going to relate to any environment that I create for you, right?
Yes.
In
Yes.
any way we going to take this journey, I don't know what your body going to do. Only you do. And so you have to
Yes.
take the lead. It's like a dance,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
If there's two
Yeah.
people in the dance, somebody got to take the lead. It's not the trainer. The trainer don't know
Mm.
what the hell's going on. We can look all day long. And what
Yes.
it looks like is what white supremacy has taught us about bodies. So our
Well,
lens is
yes.
a faulty lens. It is
Yes.
faulty because we don't have any way to have these larger discussions that we're having today on a mainstream, right, ideas. That's why I created the Instagram, right, to
Hmm.
mainstream some ideas of positivity that are connect to history. Sankofa. We have to look back. Because if we don't look back, then we think this is the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And no, it's not. This is a social construct created to keep those in power who had the influence, right, the performativeness to create this toxic structure that we live within today. And because it was created, we have the power, much like the Matrix, to disconnect, unplug, and recreate it so
Hmm.
that it is healthy for us. That is the movement that
Yes.
Fitness for All Bodies is trying to create. We're not trying to
Yes.
dictate,
And you're
we're trying to give information and
yes.
create what I like to call, right? Like butterflies, right? Inside the cocoon. We
Yes.
create cocoons because when we think of butterflies, right?
Hmm.
Butterflies go from one experience into a lot of conflict. They is in the
Yes.
cocoon. The cocoon is their safety zone,
Yes.
right? And there's conflict going on. Boom, boom, boom. Da, 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 da. All this other your whole world, everything is getting reconstructed. So there's so much conflict, but you is safe. And when you
Yes.
come out on the other side, you fly.
Yes.
That is what Fitness for All Bodies tries to do for coaches, studio owners, people who want to participate in the conversation because we need more of it. We need
Yes.
more of it authentically, where people
Authentically.
are not afraid to be checked.
Yes.
We as a community, we check people and people blame the victim because they are so cemented in their toxic behaviors and ideologies and their investment in this is the way it's supposed to be. Well, we can change it with how you react in this
Let's
very
start there.
moment. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Love it. And your how is with workshops, events, that sort of thing as well?
We do panel discussions. We began actually, Fitness for All Bodies framework began through the work that I was doing at Body Image for Justice as a trans individual, just trying to find spaces for trans people to be all in their skin. Teaching
Yes.
people that investment in bringing our community in means going beyond accommodations. It
Mm-hmm.
means understanding that this is a toxic environment for everyone, not just trans bodies,
Mm-hmm.
for everyone. And you
Mm-hmm.
need to make an investment in changing that culture. And so
Yes.
from there, I decided to do the Queer Gym pop up because things work at a snail's pace, right? And
Yes.
the snail's pace is actually white people trying to understand and fight through being different from whiteness,
Mm.
because whiteness is the enemy, not white people. The ideology that we have all been informed with is whiteness, right? White supremacist culture. We've
Yes.
all on this great nation of ours, on the United States and all of America, have been informed by whiteness. Okay. And so we
Yes.
take that in and we think that that is regular and right. And it's hard to let go of that, especially if it's hard for us sometimes when we find value, right? It's easier
Yes.
because we are, like Audre Lorde says, I'm like digging a hole with all of the identities that I hold. But it's hard sometimes because we privilege in some of those things. It's hard sometimes because we benefit in some of those things, right?
Of
And that's
course.
why it's hard for white people to understand that whiteness is the problem, not the people. And so learning that and investing
Yes.
in that is the true game changer.
Now, just I have to jump in there, just because what you said right there was said so clearly and so eloquently that makes perfect sense. It's not always articulated that way, though.
Sorry, my
That's
is
yeah. All good,
yeah.
all good, all good. But I'm saying like what I was saying is that you explain that so well there. It's not always explained that way, where that makes sense. That whiteness versus white people, for example, piece, like that makes sense, 100%. You see thumbs going up, see hearts going up, like
It's because I've learned this based on a framework of love and an investment in building a larger community. And,
yes,
and my investment will always be based on love,
yes,
right? An investment in my larger community. We
yes,
are all, no matter what we are taught, and I love my mom for this,
mhm,
we are all a part of that larger community. It's
yes,
whiteness that says that even white people are not a part of it. White bodies are not a part of it, right? Poor
mhm,
white bodies are not a part of it. Unable, what they have identified as ableist, right? If you're not able to be a productive citizen and what they have decided it was, right? Through
yes,
eugenics, through science, through
mhm,
history, through
mhm,
colonialization, through
right,
genocide. I could go on and on. These
yes,
ideas, right, are embodied within all of our bodies,
yes,
right? All of us, and white people too,
mhm,
right? And that's the thing. We have to sometimes be uncomfortable. I've been uncomfortable to find people's hearts
mhm,
and acknowledge that we've all learned the same thing. And
yes,
I believe in what I've learned as an activist and meeting people where they're at. It didn't say meet white people where they at, meet black
mhm,
people where they meeting people where they're at
yes,
and understanding that's education. And so if I'm going to understand my experience, I have to understand the experience of the oppressor and those ideas. And then
yes,
understand that I find that I have people that are a part of my community that are white people that are against those ideas, that are
Okay.
against that framework, and that are
Yes.
willing to expose themselves to as much of our larger community as
Mhm.
possible and advocate for that work.
So I have a
Right?
question for you at that point there. Those people, would you still consider those people, like you just said, those white people that acknowledge and are doing that work, would you still consider them racist? Would you still have that blanket statement saying all white people are racist?
All white people are racist
Yes.
because they have white skin. So even those who are not white, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even light skinned blacks have
Mm-hmm.
an investment in that lighter skin privilege,
Yeah.
right?
They could
So it
benefit from that
can't,
there.
so just because it doesn't erase the structure that we all exist and live
You
within.
sorry, you're cutting
And
out.
but I
Sorry,
think
you cut out there. Can you repeat that, please?
just because I made that statement does not erase the structure that we live within, and that is a
So,
racist structure.
so Justice, you cut out there. I missed some of what you just said there.
Hello?
Yeah, it cut out. There was a delay, so I missed some of what you just said there.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
So basically, I said the statement that I made about white people being able to build communities beyond whiteness
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that they don't benefit from racism
Mm-hmm.
because they have white skin privilege.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of that, yes, they are still racist because they receive privilege, right? It's almost like Alcoholics Anonymous, right?
Yeah.
Alcoholics Anonymous don't be like, yo, you can't admit that you is an alcoholic before you can change it, right? They
Mm-hmm.
don't be like, yo, you can lie and da da da. You coming in here having these conversations. No, they say you gotta admit the problem before you
Right.
can change and transform. The problem is that this structure is racist, and those who are white identified benefit more than anybody else. And
Okay.
how do they identify that they're white? Not by reading any, not by first glance. How we do anything in this world by our lens. So we
Yes.
look at the person just like we in this. Let's say I walk in a store and my friend walks in a store
Mm-hmm.
who does not conform to
Mm-hmm.
any of these ideas. What do you think that experience is going to be like? Well, that experience is racism, right?
Yes.
My friends still receive privilege in the relationship beyond our lenses
Right.
because they are white. And
Right.
that is important for white people to understand. To
Mm-hmm.
understand is that we have to break the structure down before white people are not racist, right?
Right.
So you won't be racist if there's a racist structure,
Right.
right?
So then
If
if
you
I'm a
break the
white person, hypothetically running with what you're saying, if I'm a white person and I move to a predominantly black community with the West Indies, Trinidad, something like that, I'm suddenly not racist?
it depends on the structure and the
Right?
imperialization, right? From whiteness. Come on, we
Hypothetically
is like
speaking, right?
we right from whiteness. Like don't we is like going no above and beyond. No, whiteness has traveled along the whole globe and left its element, its toxic element. We know all over the place. So my answer to that is I ain't never been to the place you said, but I'm sure through
Mm-hmm.
history that I'm learned that whiteness has some role in relationship to what is being governed on that land and how people are in relationship to each other and the ideas of power and privilege.
Mm-hmm.
So if white skin still receive that, I'm going to say, yeah, they racist on that land. I'm just going to say that.
Cool.
And
Yeah,
in
yeah.
saying that, that just acknowledges the indigenous of that land. Let's acknowledge the indigenous of that land. It always goes back to acknowledging
To the
the
land.
indigenous of the land, our education. So am I saying
Yes.
that that person is racist? Yes, I am. Because I'm acknowledging the indigenous of this land and understanding the historical context of the situation and not being all
Yes.
personable about it and taking
Right.
feelings, but understand the
Yes.
authentic truth about acknowledging the land. It all
That's
connects.
good.
It all
Yes.
connects. It all connects.
Yes. Yeah. Good stuff. Is a very interesting perspective that is not presented in this context, going back to the land.
Well, I would have people join me at Fitness for All Bodies and get that perspective. I would have people join more of our conversations. And when we talk about we want to get more of that exposure out there, we all should be talking about the work that we as Fitness for All Bodies, a community of people, are working on together, not justice. And I really want people to take that out of their mind. Once you
Mm-hmm.
connect, it is we. And that will
Yes.
always be my ideology because I can't do shit by myself in this racist world that we live in, especially as a Black trans man, and how my body is oppressed in this world. So I need my community to acknowledge the history of this land in order to amplify and celebrate how powerful we are as a collective.
Yeah. I just letting that linger. That was a good comment.
Yeah, I felt like the mic was dropped. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I can't.
I let it drop,
I
man. I'm
felt
not gonna try and steal your thunder on that. That was solid. That was proper.
the mic dropped.
So what do you got? So what's your next workshop you have coming up, or seminar or talk, or what's the next coming up?
So the next seminar that we have coming up, we have 3 cohorts a year on deconstructing the fitness industrial complex. Um, and that happens 3 times a year. Our last one is happening in October. We do reframing masculinities and gym culture. That is coming up
Yes.
in August. That is a 9-hour conversation talking about these ideas from this framework, right? From this
Yes.
very framework. And we have the eugenics coming up in November, and we have a lot of workshops that we're doing right now, because a part of our work is not just pulling people in, but acknowledging, creating a web of other activists who are doing this very education, because part of
Yes.
exposure is not getting it from one experience, but
Absolutely.
understanding it from different perspectives. And
Yes.
that's what creates a powerful individual. The more we're able to expose ourselves to each other, the more we demystify, the more we eradicate the toxic influence that we've received from white supremacy. Because that has always been about separation, separating ourselves from ourselves so that we don't deem worthy.
Yes. Great work. Good for you. You're doing amazing work. I love to hear the we speak in the community that you're building around this, and definitely want to support that. Please follow Fitness for All and movement leadership. We touched on so many things today. Thank you so much for your time. That is a fast 58 minutes, my friend.
It was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to
And
speak. Very great.
appreciate it. Thank you to all the people in the comment section. Teresa, Ellis, and good to see you. Joel, thank you so much.
Thank
Pilates Hottie's IG. Please follow her. She's so inspirational. I gotta see what she's been up to. Amazing people here. Emmett Young was in here as well. Thank you all for
you.
following.
I love you too. Pull out these bars and jams. Yeah. I can see. Sorry, I had to say that.
Yes. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. I will send you the repost later, and all the best in everything you put your hands to, man. Blessings.
Thank you. Have a powerful day.
All right.